So let's get into it. 17. This story of the first half. Whether it was the Pacers' hot shooting or the Celtics' terrible defense, Indiana shot 58%. Third quarter went like third quarters go, and the Pacers ripped out a 17-point lead. And then Payton Pritchard happened, and Rob Williams happened. A lot of different things happened, and definitely some lineup tweaks in there. And the Celtics roared back, and they took did they max out at an 8-point lead there? I mean, they flipped that thing completely from 17 to plus lead. 8.
Yeah.
And then they held on late. They tried to give it away, but they hung on there. A lot of great things. Pritchard was one. Tatum was one. Definitely some questions about, just rotation, who's in, who's out, what Brad chose to do. Javonte Green played quite a bit here. But let's just get your opening thoughts here. Josue, start with you.
Yeah, I thought it was a huge win. Definitely a huge win for the Celtics guys, because I think this is sort of this is that kind of win that you get early in the season that start to help form your identity, and that's exactly what this team needs to do. They need to start forming their identity and find out what kind of team they're going to be built into, whether that's with Kemba or without. They have to have this thing together for when Kemba does come back. And of course, there were some things that didn't go their way, especially in that third quarter. A huge swing, but you said it, John. I mean, Pritchard, huge minutes, second unit minutes. These minutes are going to go a long, long way. And it's not necessarily about running up the scoreboard or of course, him dropping 20 points. No. Big plays like that, steals after you just turn the ball over, clapping your hands together, asking for the ball from the weak side, from Jayson Tatum, your all-star. This is a rookie, guys. Very impressed with Pritchard because that's the kind of approach that you don't necessarily see from someone like him. And of course, that's why Brad Stevens had to go with him. It's funny. I'm watching the telecast and Scalabrine is like, man, this guy's huffing and puffing. I'm sure Brad's going to take him out the game. I'm like, he can't take him out the game, Scal. He's got to close this thing out. And that's exactly why he checked right back in and it made another big play down the stretch for the Celtics to help him win this. But of course, it wasn't just that, right? It wasn't just that. Jaylen Brown taking it to the rack. Jayson Tatum taking it to the rack. That's how they closed this game out, right? Don't get me wrong. Pritchard was huge. That second unit, those minutes go a long way. Celtics don't come back if it wasn't for him. But those two closers, attacking the rim, getting to the free throw line, that's how all-stars close out games. And that's what we saw tonight.
They played some defense. They didn't play any defense whatsoever from second quarter through the third quarter. And then they get out to the fourth quarter, and you get Green out there. You get Rob Williams out there with Tatum. They string together some stops. Jeff Teague gets those 2 steals to start the quarter. They get out running in transition. You're right, Josue. All those offensive things matter. But let's be serious. The Celtics played pretty good offense from the start of this game to the end of this game. The defense was completely missing for the first 3 quarters. Take out the fourth quarter. This team's the worst defensive team in the NBA by far to start this year. Tough competition, all that stuff. I don't really care. You're going to play tough teams during the year. And this team's been non-existent on the defensive end of the floor. So it's great they strung out a win here. I don't think I've ever seen a team, or a Celtics team rather, turn a game around on a dime like they did between the third and the fourth of this one. But I'm still wildly concerned about that defense. They have some horrid lineups out there when it comes to that end of the floor. They found a good combination to end the game, but you need a lot more ones than that.
I mean, we've done this before, right? With Toronto last year in the playoffs. When shots fall, your defense is terrible. When the shots don't fall, your defense is great. Like Indiana was unconscious from 3. You just don't expect them to drop that many. Right. They weren't all wide open threes. They just knocked down.
Yeah. In that first half, I love that they were forcing them to shoot it. I mean, of course, it wasn't going their way, but I thought that the Pacers were really uncomfortable. Whereas, 2 nights ago, they were attacking the rim. Sabonis started doing it, and then he starts reluctant to jacking up threes. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. The Celtics are making them play the way they want, and that's exactly what you want your defense to do. But then, of course, the second half, that third quarter was a completely different Celtics team.
They just hit everything, and that's the thing is we always get into this offense-defense debate, and to me, I'm always more concerned with offense because you can tell when the offense is going well, whether shots fall or don't fall, but you could see, that Tatum today is a great example. He was 1 of 3 from 3. He only took 3 threes because he was aggressive and he was going to the basket. Pritchard was constantly moving. Like that's the type of stuff you want to see on offense that makes you feel better about the team. I always think defense is just going to fall into place. Across the league, the numbers are huge. I don't think teams are playing with as much effort early. They don't have cohesion on the defensive side, so they're all kind of out of whack.
But the Celtics are worse than anyone in that regard, so there is some reason for concern.
There is, and their lineups, they don't have great lineups out there. But Jimmy, we haven't heard from you yet, so your thoughts.
Oh, I get to say something in the show? Great. Yeah. All right.
So, how about this? ISO cam. Boom.
Wow, okay.
Right off the bat.
Let me get all my points in at once. No, there was a few things that I liked tonight. The first thing that stood out to me was the Celtics not just relying on the three-point. When you look at the box score, you see 10 free throw attempts from Tatum, 10 free throw attempts from Brown, 10 free throw attempts from Smart. I mean, we've been kind of harping on that. I mean, Jayson Tatum went 2 games without getting the free throw line. Now he's going on the line 10 times. So I think the message was sent to him, hopefully through Brad, that, he needs to be getting to the line more, whether that means, screaming for a foul, whether that means just being more aggressive and drawing contact, whatever that was good to see. You're talking about the defense. I'm not concerned about the Celtics defense for a lot of the reasons that John mentioned. A lot of it's effort. We're early in the season. Hasn't been a ton of practice getting in your sets at that point. And I did think the perimeter defense was kind of weak and transition defense was kind of weak. Yeah, Indy was hitting threes, but I think a lot of those were easy threes for them. The Celtics were like, here, take the 3, and then they were hitting it. So I wasn't super pumped about that effort on the defensive end. And we mentioned him off the top. Pritchard, again, with a really strong performance on both ends. I mean, even when he turned the ball over, he was hustling back to, get it back on the other end. So I liked what I saw for him. So those were some of the big points that stood out to me. And I thought Thompson had a great game, too, to start to finish for the most part.